My girlfriend, 24 female and I, 25 male, ended our relationship about 2 weeks ago. She initiated the breakup, but it was clear to both of us that things had not been going well for a while, so although I was sad, I wasn't entirely surprised. We parted ways on relatively good terms, and promised to stay friends, whatever that means. A couple of days after the breakup, we exchanged the belongings we had at each other's places. We didn't communicate again until 2 days ago when she texted me. We had planned a vacation to Hawaii this year. The plane tickets cost around $1,200 in each, and the hotel was about $2,000 in, so we agreed that I would cover the hotel and she would handle the flights. The flights were non-refundable, and we had already passed the cancellation window for the hotel, so I decided to find a friend to share the hotel with and go on the trip anyway. I had planned to offer to pay my ex for my flight ticket so she wouldn't be at a loss, but she reached out first. Last Friday she suggested that she would pay me for the hotel minus the cost of the flight, because she still wanted to go with a friend. I told her that I was planning to go with a friend, and was going to pay her for my ticket. She agreed but said that I should also pay for half of her ticket since she couldn't use it. Her argument was that we both agreed to buy 2 plane tickets, and book the hotel under the assumption that we would go together. Since that wasn't happening, we should share the loss. She believed that since I was still using the hotel and my ticket, we should each bear the cost of her $1,200 in ticket, amounting to $600 in each. I told her that I didn't think that was fair at all. First, it was her decision to break up, so the reason we aren't going together is on her. Second, there's no reason she can't use her ticket. She could book another hotel and still go with her friend. I even suggested that I would switch seats with her friend so they could sit together. Whether or not she uses her ticket is her choice, and she should bear that cost. She said she didn't want to go at the same time as me, and that the good hotels were already booked. We went back and forth, and she even threatened to cancel the tickets, even though she wouldn't get any money back. I told her to go ahead and cancel them if she wanted. I'll just buy a new ticket and not pay her back anything. She called me immature, and said we should discuss this later when I could be more reasonable. Right now my friends are divided. Most think I should at least pay her for my ticket, which I am willing to do if she doesn't cancel it. Some think I should also pay half of her ticket. But I am firm that I won't pay for half of her ticket. Am I the jerk here? Now for the update. Thanks to everyone who commented on my last post, I received more advice than I expected, and I appreciate it. Many of you suggested that the airline might be able to help. I mentioned this to my ex, but she had bought the tickets through a discount agency online, and there was no possibility of a refund. If you're curious, here's how it all ended. I eventually told my ex that I would not pay her more than the $1,200 and for my ticket under any circumstances, and that she could take it or leave it. I would just get my own ticket. She later asked if I would let her use the hotel if she paid me the entire $2,000 and, effectively letting me out of the trip altogether. To be honest, Hawaii was more her idea. It wasn't my top destination, so I decided to take the money and go somewhere more appealing to me. I asked my friend who was supposed to go with me if he would be interested in a cheaper and closer trip. He hadn't bought his ticket yet, because he was waiting for me to settle things with my ex. We looked at other options and decided to accept her offer and go to the Bahamas instead. I had my ex agree in writing to cover any fees or damages incurred at the hotel. I didn't think there would be any issues since she's not the type to cause trouble, but I wanted to be sure. I received the money via Venmo, sent by a male coworker of hers. They had been work friends for a while, and I had met him a couple of times. I don't know if they were just friends or something more. I don't believe she cheated on me with him, but I could see how her interest in him might have influenced our breakup. At the end of the day, it didn't matter to me. I got my money back and she got her vacation. I'm guessing her coworker also bought his ticket, so he's the one taking the financial hit. My ex and I are on civil terms again, but I don't plan on keeping in touch. Thanks again for the advice. Reflecting on our relationship, I realized that it had been a roller coaster of emotions. We met 3 years ago at a friend's party. I was immediately drawn to her bright smile and infectious laughter. We started dating soon after and moved in together a year later. Our first big trip was to Japan. We explored Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka, creating unforgettable memories. I remember her excitement when we visited the temples, her fascination with the cherry blossoms, and how we got lost in the bustling streets of Shibuya. Those were the good times. But like any relationship, we faced challenges. We had our share of disagreements about career choices, financial decisions, and even trivial things like what to watch on Netflix. She was spontaneous and adventurous, while I preferred structure and planning. Initially, these differences added excitement to our relationship, but over time, they created friction. The decision to go to Hawaii was a last attempt to rekindle the spark we once had. We thought a change of scenery might help us reconnect. However, the months leading up to the trip were stressful. Work was demanding for both of us, and we often argued over minor issues. The final straw came when she suggested we take a break. I was hesitant, but deep down I knew it was the right decision. The love we once had was overshadowed by constant bickering and unresolved issues. When we finally decided to end things, it felt like a weight had been lifted. In the days following the breakup, I threw myself into work and spent more time with friends. My best friend Alex was a great support. He had witnessed the highs and lows of our relationship and understood my mixed feelings. He was the one who suggested we still go on the trip, even if it meant changing the destination. As I prepared for the trip to the Bahamas with Alex, I felt a sense of freedom. It was an opportunity to start fresh and create new memories without the baggage of a failed relationship. The Bahamas promised adventure, exploring coral reefs, lounging on pristine beaches, and immersing ourselves in the vibrant local culture. The day we left for the Bahamas was bittersweet. I knew my ex was preparing for her trip as well. I wished her well and decided to focus on the future. The Bahamas exceeded my expectations. Alex and I bonded over shared experiences, from snorkeling in crystal-clear waters to hiking through tropical rainforests. One evening, as we watched the sunset over the ocean, Alex asked if I had any regrets. After some thought, I realized that despite the pain, I didn't regret my time with my ex. Our relationship taught me valuable lessons about love, compromise, and resilience. It also made me appreciate the importance of finding someone whose values and goals align with mine. Our trip to the Bahamas was a turning point. It helped me move on and embrace the future with optimism. When I returned home, I felt renewed. I focused on my career, picked up new hobbies, and started dating again cautiously. Months passed, and life found a new rhythm. My ex and I remained amicable but distant. Occasionally, I heard about her through mutual friends or saw her posts on social media. She seemed happy, and I was genuinely glad for her. Our paths had diverged, but I held no ill will. In quiet moments of reflection, I acknowledged that life is full of unexpected twists. Our breakup, though painful, set me on a path of self-discovery and growth. I was grateful for the experiences we shared and the lessons learned. Moving forward, I was determined to apply these lessons to future relationships, ensuring I found a partner who truly complemented my life. We moved into an apartment not know where the gas meter was, assuming it was in the basement, which we are directly above. 6 months into our lease, we were contacted by the gas company, Con Edison, saying the gas meter was in our unit and they needed access to it for an upgrade or we will be fine. That is when we discovered our landlord had built a wall over the fucking gas meter. The landlord is refusing to take the wall down. We explained that to Con Edison and they said it was our responsibility to provide access, and the wall is between us and our landlord. No, it's between us and the fucking gas meter. Until they can replace the old meter, we will be charged $100 a month. I asked them if they would come and take the wall down, if we have them access to our unit. They said they didn't have the authority to do so. I'm not sure how else I'm supposed to give access besides taking a sledgehammer to the wall myself. What are my legal options here? This seems crazy to me, and I'm pissed to be charged for a situation I have absolutely no control over. After getting stonewalled by the gas company's customer service, I found the personal cell of the SVP of Customer Relationships and called her. Her office got on it and is having an inspector come out next week. After they document the situation, I will contact code enforcement. I've been extremely tired lately and completely forgot to mention that there is a small peephole in the wall you can read the meter through. I can't find the emergency shutoff valve either anywhere in the kitchen or in the part of the wall I can see into. I think it's farther up in the wall. The reason I am tired is we have a colicky newborn baby. So we are bracing for the possibility of moving with a newborn. This is unfortunately not an update on how the situation resolved. New and interesting legal problems are coming up. Following the advice of commenters on the original post, we called 311 and got both a referral for a free consult with a housing lawyer and filed a DOB complaint. An hour after we filed the complaint, our landlord called us fully freaking out. He said according to the terms of our lease, we would be liable for any of his legal fees, including the fines from the DOB, which he said would be tens of thousands. He then accused us of making all the other DOB complaints on the building, which include leaky gas pipes and our fire escapes being death traps. Nice to know. He told us it would be in our best interest not to let the DOB inspector in. So we let the building inspector in. The wall covering the gas meter is only the tip of the "wow, you really shouldn't do that with gas pipes" iceberg. The building inspector filed a violation and gave our landlord 48 hours to fix all the issues. The lawyer we did a consult with laughed when we told him all this. We called him back after the first consult. He said his retainer is $250 and we are waiting until the end of the day to decide if we should hire him. Our best case scenario at this point would be for the landlord to do enough to keep the unit inhabitable for another month, and then let us out of our lease in mid-August. We used documents shared on my first post to find all the other obvious code violations in the unit, and informed the landlord about all of them at once. Hopefully we can annoy him into letting us quit our lease. Any additional advice would be welcome. We are still processing how bonkers this situation is. The landlord just sent us a bill for $7,500. Hi, I am the person whose landlord built a wall over the gas meter and then tried to force me to pay there to be fines. I wanted to update because the way this shook out was legally interesting. After my last post, we hired a lawyer to review our situation and dig into some public records. My landlord took down the offending wall in front of the meter, but was still demanding the SEVIC. We requested records from the Housing and Community Renewal Division and the DOB, and also from some other databases my lawyer had access to. Here are all the ways my landlord done fucked up. He improperly filed paperwork to set up the LLC he used to hide his ownership of our building from tenants. He improperly handled funds for our security deposit. He violated the warranty of habitability and would need to pay us back at least 30% of all the rent we had paid. About 8, he appears to have illegally deregulated our unit, which was rent stabilized before he bought the building, and would be liable under state law for the overcharged rent and treble damages, one known exact amount, but a lot. He had retaliated against a good faith to be complaint with an illegal fine, and any attempt on his part to collect it would entitle us under state law to treble damages, about 20. Despite what he believed in NY, the clause that we have to pay his legal fees also applies to him if the judge ruled in our favor, another few $1,000s. All that being said, we were still bound by the terms of our lease, which required us to find a new tenant to take our place if we wanted to leave. The lawyer told us that if we just left, a unilateral surrender of the unit state law said our landlord had a duty to mitigate, that is to fill the unit as quickly as possible, and charge us only for the hopefully short time it was empty. However, all evidence points towards my landlord being a greedy motherfucker, and we expected that a unilateral surrender, while the most ethical option from our perspective, we didn't want to convince another innocent person to live here, would likely lead to a long legal battle. Our lawyer was delighted by the prospect of savaging this man in court, but acknowledged going to housing court could make renting again more difficult for us. We were pretty conflicted about how to proceed. It really feels like when you are dealing with somebody like my landlord, you should just be able to go in front of a judge and say, "Your Honor, fuck this guy." But unfortunately, contract law still protects assholes. So here is a bit of backstory not in my last posts. I have been living with a disability for the last 20 years. We don't have to get into details, but it's psychiatric and neurological. And when I first got diagnosed, my medical team basically said, "LMAO, yeah, you're fucked. Maybe apply for Social Security." Despite that, I have managed to work full-time at a demanding job, and my symptoms have been under control. Then I got pregnant. I had a horrible pregnancy with painful complications during as well as postpartum. I was hospitalized multiple times. And I was also dealing with problems at my job. You can look at my post history. It's been a shit Sunday of a year. By the time the situation with my landlord came to a head, my health was extremely dire and getting worse. My parents, who I have a great relationship with, they are the top shelf of boomers, offered to take us in while I got back on my feet, but we had to break our lease first. I didn't include any of this sob story in my first post because it wasn't legally relevant. Or that is what I thought. Turns out NY has had a law on the books for a while that if an elderly person's health deteriorates, they are allowed to break their lease without penalty if they are moving either to a care facility or to live with family. In 2019, the state amended that law to include disabled people. I discovered this law by accident. I never told my lawyer about my health problems, and when I brought it to him, he said I should be covered under the law. I got letters from my doctors outlining my disability, as well as a letter from my parents confirming I would be living with them, rent-free, for 6+ months, and detailing what care they would be providing. My lawyer sent those along to my landlord, along with a letter explaining that my right to move under state law trumped his lease, and if he tried to haul me into housing court, the judge was going to get the full list of all his sins, and we would counterclaim for upwards of $30,000. He caved immediately and let us use our security deposit for last month's rent. Our security deposit was several $100s less than our monthly rent. We moved out this week and so far have heard nothing from our former landlord. Our lawyer is on standby. The matter seems settled. So, an unsatisfactory conclusion by Reddit standards. I found my post on some repost subs when I started getting random followers. Sorry to not deliver on juicy drama, but we wanted to avoid going to court. My parents have a large house in New England, on a wooded lot in a quiet suburb, and already our quality of life is 1000% better. I wake up every morning and sit with my dog and baby on a big porch looking out at trees. My son actually got to touch grass for the first time in his life. All of our friends and family live here, and after many months of being sick and isolated, I'm planning Sunday dinners. This was the absolute best outcome for me and my family.
Finding a wedding invitation in my mailbox brought a wave of excitement. I eagerly opened it, and a small note card slipped out. Ignoring the note for the moment, I focused on the beautiful invitation. Its design was exquisite, truly a work of art, and I immediately placed it on my fridge to admire daily. Addressed to both my husband and me, it filled me with joy. Weddings always moved me to tears, with the promise of new beginnings and the celebration of love. My passion for weddings even led me to become a wedding singer at one point. After savoring the invitation, I picked up the note card. To my surprise, while my husband was invited to the wedding and reception, I was assigned to help babysit the children in a separate room with several other women. The church hosting the wedding had a special room for children, and that's where I was expected to spend the entire event. Despite needing to dress appropriately for the wedding, in case I appeared in any photos, I would have my meal with the children and miss out on the main festivities. The note also included a link to their gift registry. Adding to my dismay, the note mentioned that the meals for my husband and me would cost $100 in each, with a link provided for payment when we RSVP'd digitally. The first issue that sprang to mind was my disability. At 50 years old, I am legally disabled and rely on oxygen. I use a walker for long distances and sometimes need a wheelchair. While I could sit in a room and watch the kids, I wouldn't be much help in an emergency where quick action was required, such as preventing a fall or dealing with a choking child. My physical limitations made this babysitting assignment impractical. The second issue was more personal. My husband wasn't the one with lifelong connections to these people I was. It baffled me that he would be allowed to attend the wedding and reception, while I was relegated to the children's room. My husband generously offered to watch the kids so I could enjoy the wedding, but the note specifically stated that only female invitees would be babysitting, making his offer moot. I couldn't help but wonder if this was a new trend at weddings. Do hosts now assign guests to babysit other guests' children? Should I call and explain my health situation, even though they were already well aware of it from my numerous hospital stays? It felt unfair to have to play the health card, but what were they thinking? I felt deeply hurt and offended, reduced to a mere babysitter expected to pay for my meal and provide free childcare. Would it be wrong to decline the invitation and suggest they find another babysitter? And if we don't attend, should we still send a gift? To give you more context, I know these folks because my late mother and the bride's grandmother were best friends. The bride's mom and I grew up together, attended the same schools, graduated together, worked together twice, and have maintained a close relationship. The bride has always felt like a goddaughter to me. This situation leaves me stunned. The wedding will take place at a Southern Baptist church. None of us are particularly religious, they just like the venue. I've never been inside, but it's beautiful from the outside and apparently has a child care room spacious enough for a group of women and children to gather comfortably during the wedding and reception. We are all American. The groom's family is connected to mine through marriage, and the bride and groom actually met at a cookout at my house a few years ago. My bond with the bride's family has always been much stronger. I knew about the proposal. I was FaceTimed shortly after it happened, and my husband and I shared tears and laughter, congratulating them on the engagement and admiring the ring. I anticipated an invitation, but certainly not one like this. The bride's mom mentioned during our last lunch that they were inviting around 200 people, so it would be a large wedding with many children in attendance. I don't dislike children. In fact, I love them. My husband and I wanted kids of our own, but my body couldn't carry a pregnancy to term. After 2 miscarriages and a stillbirth, we accepted that it wasn't meant to be. We are now in the process of legally adopting 2 young adults who came to live with us after being kicked out and left homeless at 18. They've been with us for years and call us mom and pop, forming our own family. I'm still weighing my options. I've started and deleted several emails to the bride's mom, my emotions making it difficult to find the right words. I want to ensure everything is in writing to avoid any miscommunication. I plan to ask if the babysitting note was sent to me by mistake, given my physical limitations. However, every draft of the email starts with WTF Donna, so I need to calm down and think it through. I spoke to my friend the bride's mother and I'm pretty upset. I've been bawling for most of the day. She called and said they were getting a lot of backlash from the wedding guests. No one wanted to pay $100 and for dinner, and only 3 of the women asked were okay with babysitting. I told her I understood the guests upset because it's just tacky to 1. Be asked to pay and 2. Be told you are invited but only to babysit. I told her I would not be a babysitter. At all. No. Just no. She got mad and brought up how we were lifelong friends. She said I'd be helping them more by babysitting than by simply sitting in a pew watching. I reminded her that I couldn't physically help at all due to, being legally disabled. She said they completely understood that and expected me to simply supervise the other sitters since they trusted me most. Again, I told her that I felt it was insulting to be voluntold, thanks Reddit for that word, that I'd be babysitting, and that I had no desire to do that, especially not dressed in formal wear. Then we got to the truth. She said she didn't know if I'd be in a wheelchair that day or require a walker. That's fair. I don't always know which one I'll need. She said they wanted everyone in pews for the wedding video, and me sitting in a wheelchair would make me stick out and ruin the video and photos. I said, if I need a wheelchair that day, then I can move to a pew, and my husband can put the wheelchair in another room or back in our car. I may not even need it that day. Then she says, well, space is limited in the pews. You would take up the space of 2 people with your purse and oxygen tank. I said, no, I would not. I wouldn't bring a purse in, and the oxygen tank either sits on my lap or between my feet. It's like a little backpack. Then she said, well, having you in oxygen in the photos would be distracting from the other people. And there you have it. Words were exchanged and she hung up on me. I haven't been removed from any social media yet, but I fully expect to be. I already feel awful for being this way at only 50 years old. I didn't choose this. I didn't want this. If she thinks it's awful to have it photographed, just imagine living with it. Which is what I told her before she hung up on me. I'm devastated. Just devastated. Reflecting on our friendship, I remembered how my mom and the bride's grandma were inseparable. Growing up with the bride's mom was like having an older sister. We shared everything: school, work, and countless memories. The bride was like a goddaughter to me. It was at my house, during one of our summer cookouts, that the bride and groom first met. Their relationship blossomed from that day, and I felt a deep connection to their journey. When the proposal happened, I was one of the first people they called. My husband and I cried tears of joy, shared in their excitement, and admired the ring. We were genuinely happy for them, and I was looking forward to celebrating their love. But this invitation, with its unexpected babysitting duties, felt like a slap in the face. It seemed to disregard my relationship with the family and my physical limitations. I couldn't understand why they would assign me to babysit, knowing my health issues. It wasn't just about the physical strain, it was the emotional blow of being sidelined. I began to question if our friendship meant as much to them as it did to me. I considered my options, drafting and redrafting emails to the bride's mom. Each attempt felt inadequate, either too harsh or too pleading. I didn't want to come across as bitter, but I needed to convey my hurt and frustration. The whole situation was a minefield of emotions, and I was struggling to navigate it. I appreciated the support and advice from friends and strangers alike. Their comments provided a mix of perspectives that helped me see the situation from different angles. Some suggested declining the invitation and focusing on my well-being, while others encouraged me to address the issue head-on with the bride's family. Despite my reservations, I decided to speak with the bride's mother. The conversation was tense. She explained the backlash they were facing from other guests, who were also unhappy about the babysitting assignments and the $100 in meal charge. I expressed my understanding but reiterated my inability and unwillingness to babysit. Her reaction was disappointing. She emphasized our long-standing friendship and suggested that I could still help by supervising the other sitters. When I reminded her of my disability, she acknowledged it, but insisted they needed someone they trusted to oversee the children. The conversation took a more painful turn when she admitted their real concern: my presence in a wheelchair, or with oxygen, would be a distraction in their wedding photos and video. It felt like a punch to the gut. I tried to assure her that I could manage without drawing attention, but her mind was made up. We exchanged harsh words and she hung up on me. The aftermath of that call left me reeling. I hadn't been removed from social media yet, but I knew it was only a matter of time. The whole ordeal made me feel even more self-conscious about my disability, something I didn't choose and had no control over. As I reflected on the conversation, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. The bride's family, who I considered my own, had reduced me to a problem to be managed rather than a guest to be cherished. Their concerns about appearances overshadowed our decades of friendship. In the days that followed, I received messages of support from other friends, and even some wedding guests who were aware of the situation. They reassured me that my feelings were valid, and that I had every right to be hurt. Their kindness was a balm to my wounded spirit, but the pain lingered. Ultimately, I decided not to attend the wedding. It was a difficult decision, but I knew it was the right one for my mental and physical well-being. I sent a polite email declining the invitation and wished them all the best for their special day. Despite everything, I wanted their wedding to be a joyous occasion, even if I couldn't be part of it. I also sent a modest gift from the registry as a gesture of goodwill. It felt like a small way to honor the years of friendship and the love I still had for them, despite the hurt they had caused. Life moved on, and I focused on the positives. My husband and I continued our adoption process, bringing 2 wonderful young adults into our lives. They called us Mom and Pop, and their presence filled our home with love and laughter. They were our family, and we were grateful for the joy they brought us. Through this experience, I learned the importance of setting boundaries and standing up for myself. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I realized that true friends would understand and respect my limitations, rather than make me feel like a burden. As I moved forward, I cherished the support system I had and the new family we were building. The pain from the wedding invitation incident lingered, but it no longer defined me. I chose to focus on the love and happiness in my life, surrounding myself with people who truly cared about me. In the end, I found peace in knowing that I had done what was best for me. The journey was difficult, but it taught me valuable lessons about friendship, acceptance, and resilience. I embraced the future with hope and gratitude, ready to create new memories with the people who mattered most.